Now it's time to make up for the previous lesson and give you a nice long one. Now that we can solve inequalities, we're going to learn how to represent them visually. Okay, but let me let you know this. When it comes to this lesson, when it comes to graphing them visually, step one is going to still be, step one will still be solving. Okay, anything we get, our first step is still going to be solving it, getting a variable on one side and a number on the other. It's still going to be step one. Okay, but the part that's different now is that we're going to have to, I'm going to draw a nice big number line as straight as possible. And at the center of that number line, I'm going to put 0. And I'm going to build it out here. This is where we're going to graph inequalities first. This is where we're going to learn to graph inequalities. 6. Try to make these nice and evenly spaced. 8 and 9. And then we'll have -1, -2, -3. So as we stretch in the left direction, we have our negative numbers. And as we stretch in the right direction, we have our positive numbers. And this number line stretches on infinitely in either direction. I made that as neat as I could. And what we're going to learn is that we're going to do what we call shading in. And that's just going to be, clean that up a little bit. We're basically going to find the range of values, and we're going to say that everything on that direction or in the opposite direction is included in the one step, or sorry, included in the inequality. So let's, I'm not going to scroll down here, but I do want to show you a few things, and that would be down below here. I'm going to put, we're going to do pink. Okay, so this symbol, greater than, is to the right. To right. Okay, so when you see greater than 3, when you see something like that, that means greater than 3. Everything 3 and larger. Greater than is to the right. Okay? And you're going to see that less than is left. Less than is left. So when you see less than 1, that's going to be everything left of 1. Okay? Now I'm just introducing you to how we graph it and represent it visually. Okay? Now there's an important point here. There's 2 kinds of circles, and I'm going to put them in 2 different colors. You have open circles and you have closed circles, meaning they're shaded in. Okay? Now a closed circle is going to be your less than and your greater than and equal to, whereas your open circles are not equal to. And the way I remember this is if it's greater than or equal to, you're not going to just have a circle. You're going to have you're not just going to put the circle to the number. Like let's repeat, less than or equal to 1. Okay, so you're not going to just have 1 and everything left. You're going to have 1 included. So since we're including, there's something in there. This 1 is coming up to here, so it's going to get filled in. So less than or equal to or greater than or equal to gets filled in, whereas, and just to be clear, this gets filled in. Whereas when it's not an equal to sign under there, it does not get filled in. Okay, so that's some of the key points with graphing this visually. So let's work through a few examples. Let's do example 1, and this is going to be a closed circle. And I'm gonna write it out. Feel free to pause at any time to work through it yourself to test your own understanding. So we get x minus 2 is less than or equal to x. Okay, so when we see this, step 1 is solve. So we're going to add 2. Oops. Sorry, that's no good, no good. We have x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 1. My apologies. So when we see this, step 1 is to solve. So that would be adding 2 to both sides and adding 2 to both sides. And x is greater than or equal to, x is greater than or equal to 3. And let me just clean that up a little bit. X is greater than or equal to 3. Okay, so we have a greater than or equal to. Now it's time to visually graph this. How do we visually graph x is greater than or equal to 3? Well, we put a circle. Is that circle closed? Is it filled? Or is it empty? Well, it's greater than or equal to. So when it's equal to, there's something in there, so we fill it. Okay, it's a filled circle. And now which direction does it travel? What numbers are included? If x over here is the x's, x could be any of these. Okay, x could be any of these. Well, we travel in the right direction, and we call that shading in. And x could be any of these. That's what that represents. Be any of these. Any number to the right of our circle. Any number 3 or greater. Let's say it that way. Any number 3 or greater. Could be any number 3 or greater. That's what we're representing here. Okay, so that's a closed circle example. This is not an intuitive thing, the closed circle part. I find that the visual graphing, very intuitive. It makes sense. The closed or open, not so much. So just remember, if it doesn't include it, it's an open circle. If it does include it, it's a closed circle. Okay, let's do another example. Example 2. This example, and let's actually change colors. Example 2. This time we're going to have a open circle. So if we have an open circle, before I even proceed, what type of inequality symbol will we have? The type we will have will be the one which does not represent greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. And we're gonna do x plus 4 is less than 7. Okay, step 1, we're gonna solve. We have to manipulate this to a form where we can solve. X is less than 3. Okay, go ahead and attempt to either visualize this or solve it yourself on the number line you've drawn on paper. Okay, so we're going to have an open circle because it is less than, not less than or equal to, it's less than, so you have an open circle. And when we have less than, which direction do we cover? So this means x can be any number less than 3. That's just what that means. Less than 3. So we would represent that by shading it in to the left. And that is going to stretch on indefinitely to infinity. It could be 2, 1, 0, -1, stretching on to -1 million. On and on and on. And we have an open circle, and we've graphed it to the left. All right, so I'm going to do something a little different this time. I'm going to erase everything, and I'm going to put our practice problems up here above the number line where you can work on them. You can see the number line, and I can work on them. Might get a little crowded, but let's give it a shot. So these are our practice problems. Each color represents a different problem. Just to give you a heads up on some common mistakes I've seen, that would be the wrong circle. So people misunderstand which circle they should put on a given inequality, or they shade the wrong direction. So that's a couple of common mistakes. So I want you to take these 4 questions, work through them, graph them on a number line, and then I'll do the same so you can see how I do it. Okay, so let's start with this one on the top left, the green. As we have discussed, our first step is to solve the equation. We subtract 5 from both sides, and we get 7 minus 5, which is 2. Okay, so that's going to be a open circle because it's just x is less than 2. It's going to be an open circle at the point 2, and it's going to be shaded x is less than. When it's less than, it goes to the left. So for the first problem, we have x, everything less than 2, and not including 2. So let's do the next one. Plus 3 to both sides, plus 3 to both sides. We get x is less than, x is less than, oops, I've made a mistake. Let's back it up one step. So this represents x is greater than 2. X is greater than 2. So we need to graph not to the left, but to the right. X is greater than 2. Okay. So here we add 3 to both sides, add 3 to both sides, and x is less than or equal to 4. X is less than or equal to 4. So I'm going to graph this above the number 4. I'm going to fill it in, and then it's going to be shaded to the left. Everything to the left. Because x is every number including 4, every number less than 4 and including 4.
So let's go ahead and now we're going to solve this one. We divide both sides by 2. We get x is less than 4. Okay, x is less than 4. All right, so now we're going to have an open circle above 4. We're going to shade everything to the left of 4. And that'll be, what that represents is every number less than 4 and excluding 4. Now for the final one, we'll multiply both sides by 4. Multiply both sides by 4. We get x is greater than or equal to 8. So now we're coming back at this problem with green. And this one will be represented as x is greater than or equal to, so we fill it in, 8, and we shade to the right. So every number greater than 8 is a solution to this problem. So just to be clear, in this problem, in this problem here, this is saying that x is greater than 2. So every number greater than 2 is a solution to this inequality. Here, x is less than or equal to 4. So every number less than 4 or equal to 4 is a solution to this inequality. And this is a graphical representation of that. Okay? And that's it for this video. And thank you for joining me. And I'll see you next time.